Hello everyone, welcome to the Bowtie Breakdown. I'm Garry Morin The BowTieGuy. Thanks for tuning in. Today I'm in Cranston, Rhode Island at Primary Residential Mortgage with my friend Steve Hawes. Steve, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
So today Steve and I are going to talk about some documents that you sign when you're buying or selling a property, how important they are and what exactly they mean. One of those forms is the purchase and sales agreement. So Steve, can you give us some insight on a purchase and sales agreement? Like, what does that mean, and like, how does it come into play from my hands to your hands?
All right, so your purchase and sales agreement, that's your legal document.
That's the one that binds everything. So let me preface that. So with the purchase and sales contract, you have to have that, whether you're buying or selling or whatever. That has to be written in stone. And again, in Rhode Island, it's called a purchase and sales contract. Once that is signed by both buyer and seller, it is a legally binding contract. You cannot get out of it just by changing your mind. There has to be a whole set of steps. But that is the document that legally binds you, and once that's signed, I get it and I pass it over to my friend Steve on the lending side. Now, What happens to that document from there?
So once I get the purchase and sales agreement, by law, I only have 3 days to get the loan documents to the borrower or to the clients buying the property.
Now, when you say loan documents, do you mean the purchase and sales contract or something else?
So it would be actually the mortgage document.
Okay.
So all the information about the mortgage. So it's going to have all their closing costs, what type of loan they're getting. It's going to have all their personal information, and then there's going to be a lot of documents which I call fluff.
Yep.
There's probably over 100 documents. There's in your package or in your loan documents. There's probably 4 documents that are important, but most of them are some type of lawsuit at some point that's happened in mortgages. So your purchase and sales agreement, that is the legal binding document.
Yes.
That's
the one that sets the whole transaction in motion.
The seller is required to sell the property. The buyer's obligated to buy the property. That's binding them two together.
It pulls out exactly what the terms are, what the price is, the closing date, mortgage commitments. It has all of those kind of milestones or obligations for each party, and it's called out right there in writing.
Yep. And now there's some legal ways from the buyer from getting out of that contract.
Yep.
So you have your inspection,
which is probably the easiest way to get you out of a contract, out of that purchase and sales contract.
You have your mortgage commitment.
Yep.
So if you don't get qualified for the mortgage for any reason, it's your way to get out of.
As long as you do it by the dates called out on the purchase and sales contract, that is clearly outlined in that contract.
Yep. So when I send my paperwork, a lot of people get nervous because they think that is the same thing. It's legal binding documents. But the government audits us very closely. They make sure we do things in a certain time frame and we're sending the right documents. So when we send the paperwork to the client, their signature on my paperwork does not bind them to the loan. It does not obligate them to me or my bank. Basically what it's doing is it's allowing them to review all the terms.
Yep.
So the loan estimate will tell them whether the loan's been locked yet.
Yep.
It will tell them all their closing costs, and it breaks everything down for them.
Sort of an outline of everything that they can expect to pay or get credited.
Interest rate, APR, all their fees, their monthly payment with taxes and insurance, their monthly payment with mortgage insurance if they have that. But that just basically, their signature on that paperwork just basically allows us to get started.
Okay.
And it shows the government that we sent it to them in the time frame that we need it. Now, sometimes we might talk and they say, okay, I want to put 5% down. But then I send them the paperwork and then they change their mind and they might only want to put 3% down. People are afraid to sign that paperwork because it's not right, because they think it's legally binding. And I have to tell them, I'm sorry, you got to sign it. I can't change anything until you sign it. Because I got to show the government that I actually sent it to you originally, and you got it.
Yep.
Once they sign it, I can have all those changes made.
And again, you said by the client or prospective client signing that paper, it gives you permission to move forward.
It allows us to get started.
Yep.
Once they sign that paperwork and we show them all their fees and everything, then we can order the appraisal.
Yep.
We can order title, and I call them my girls, but the processors upstairs.
Yep.
They're going to get started. They're going to do there's a lot that goes into a mortgage that most people don't see.
Right.
The internal, we order verifications of employment. We're going to order title so we can get the taxes correct.
Yep.
We're going to order homeowners insurance. There's a lot that
That's
goes in.
where like the realtor side of things gets quiet, and then it's the handoff to the lender
Yep.
team and the processing team and all of that.
Yeah, but a lot of people do get afraid to sign that paperwork if everything's not exactly 100% right.
Yep.
But when we start the process, we are guessing at some numbers, and once they sign that stuff, that's when we get to verify everything. We're verifying. So typically, a purchase and sales agreement, on average, from start to finish, you sign your purchase and sales agreement, we're typically going to close about 30 days later.
30 to 45, roughly.
30 to 45, depending on the sellers, depending on everybody's schedule. But on average, it takes about 30 days from start to finish to get you into the property.
Yep.
But those 30 days, the bank, we're working on
There's
stuff.
a lot of behind the scenes stuff.
And there's a lot of people that get involved. There's you,
Yep.
there's the listing agent, there's us, there's your
Attorneys.
work, there's the attorneys, there's
home inspectors, appraisals.
absolutely there's
a lot of moving parts come into play.
a lot of moving parts, and things can't just happen just like that sometimes.
Yep.
There is a process of things.
I've seen a meme out there. It said that you're not the boss, I'm not the boss, the situation is the boss.
I like that.
In the real estate, you're not the boss, I'm not the boss, the situation is the boss, and what's going to dictate how this goes.
Yep. So they'll get paperwork a few times throughout the process. If anything changes, by law,
You have to
if something
resend?
changes, by law, we only have 3 days to send them new paperwork.
Ah, okay.
And then when we get close to the end, 3 days before their closing, there's called a closing disclosure.
Yep.
And that has to be signed by them within 3 days of their closing. Once they sign it, it starts the 3-day clock.
Okay.
But that will have pretty much all their final figures. No fees can change after that.
That's the
Everything's
final
locked
CD
in.
that comes out.
And believe it or not, our bank fees, once we disclose them to the client originally,
Yep.
ours can't change. They
Okay.
have to be locked. They're locked in.
Right at that point?
Right at that point.
Okay. All right. That was Steve Hawes telling us the differences between the purchase and sales agreement and the actual loan paperwork. I'm Garry Morin. That was another Bowtie Breakdown. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.